Hi, welcome to Brew It Bettr. My name is Dinesh. I'm one of the authorized SEA trainers here at Bettr Academy. And today we're going to start off and kick off a new series called Brew It Bettr, where we're going to expose you home brewers at home and office brewers even to just basically brewing coffee, all the tips and tricks you want to know, and of course different things that we pick up in the world of specialty coffee, different trends to get a nice cup of coffee. All right, and you're going to see that it's actually going to be very easy to get a nice cup of coffee as we go along. All right, so for today's series, we'll be brewing one of our newly launched coffees. It's called the Bubblegum, and it's a Nanolot from Nicaragua. Looking to be a very interesting bag of coffee. Let's see how it tastes. Okay, so right off the bat, I like to smell my coffee before I actually start brewing it, just to get a quick sensing of what I'm going to be dealing with. And interesting thing to note is that this is a very literally huge bean. Okay, it's a varietal called a Maragogype, and it results in a huge bean, or what we call elephant beans. All right, just an interesting observation. Okay, and more importantly, how's it going to taste? So first things first, I'm going to seal this back up to keep it fresh. What are we working with today? It's quite a simple setup. All right, we'll need our grinder, or coffee, of course. Okay, we're going to use a dripper, something to catch our coffee in, and a kettle. Right, over here we have a scale, and this is a 2-in-1 scale, meaning that it has a timer, and of course it's going to measure the weight and mass of whatever we're doing. You don't have to use a 2-in-1 scale, and as a matter of fact, you're going to see that you don't really need to use these exact equipment. Okay, you can use equivalent. Okay, you can use just a regular kitchen scale, and you can use your phone timer. For gooseneck kettles, you don't need to get a fancy, expensive one like we do over here. This is a fellow Stagg kettle. And for drippers, you can use any gravity or pour-over dripper. You don't have to use the one we're using. This is a December dripper. It's made in Korea, and it's quite an interesting dripper that we're using. But you can use a Hario V60. You can use a Kalita flat-bottom dripper as well. All right, and of course, you don't necessarily need one of these. You can just make your coffee straight into your mug. Okay. For grinders, I think something for us to connect to you with is to use a hand grinder. Not all of us have access to an electric grinder. So yeah, we're just going to go with the hand grinder, and it's not going to be too complicated, I promise. Now, before I do anything, I think it's important to note that we're going to filter our coffee, of course, and we're going to be using the filter papers. Okay, always use the correct filter paper for the correct dripper shape. These ones, they look like a cupcake linings, and they're made for flat bottom drippers. I'm going to do a quick rinse just to get rid of the papery taste, and you don't want that paper taste to actually leach into your coffee. There's no real set amount to how much water you're going to use for rinsing out your filter paper. If you really want a number, I use like 100 mils, but please don't waste water. Yeah, okay. And we're going to look at grinding our coffee. Now, the time spent between grinding my coffee and actually brewing, I want to keep it as short as possible to keep the coffee as fresh as possible. Okay, so for standard hand grinders, you're going to see that it works on a click system. Okay, this is the Timemore Chestnut Slim. Okay, you can use the Timemore Chestnut C3 or any equivalent hand grinder, or any grinder. Just don't use a pepper mill. Please don't use a blade grinder. That's for spice and herbs. Okay, you're not going to get a good quality grind for coffee. So try and look towards flat burr grinders. Those are usually electric grinders, but more commonly, if you're using hand grinders, you'll encounter the conical burr grinders. Okay. It's on a click-based system, and usually with this clicking system, it comes with different measurements of how to estimate your grind size. Technical definition of grind sizes are measured in microns, but not everyone has the means to measure your coffee in terms of microns. It requires specialized equipment, and with specialized equipment comes money. Okay, so how we usually estimate our grind sizes is to find the closest comparison, such as the coarseness of sand or the coarseness of sea salt or table salt, and it helps to draw a closer approximation of what grind size you need to use. Speaking of that click system, these companies that put out these hand grinders, they recommend you to flush the grind size to its tightest, meaning the smallest grind size, and then work your way backwards. Different hand grinders are going to have a different kind of click system. So there's no such thing as a universal grind size. Please work with the grind size that the manufacturer recommends for the specific model. Okay. For the Chestnut Slim, I'm going to go about 15 clicks. So I'm just aligning the clicks and it kind of snaps into place with all the lines along the conical burr. Okay, and I think I'm ready to use my grinder. So I'm just going to set it aside first. I'm just going to measure out the coffee that I'm going to use. Now, typically when you're brewing coffee, you want to use something called a coffee to water ratio. Okay, and for pour-overs or filter coffee, a very common coffee to water ratio that people use is 1 part coffee, 16 parts water. What that means is for every 1 gram of coffee, you're going to use 16 grams of water. Just do take note that this coffee to water ratio is a mass to mass ratio. It's not mass to volume. Okay, so I'm going to get my coffee, gonna pop it open, just going to use 15 grams. I'm going to be using a 1:16 ratio, like I mentioned. Okay, nice and easy, 15 grams. Don't forget to seal your bag of coffee back up. Keep its freshness locked in. And I'm going to pop my coffee in. I'm going to start grinding. This is easily the most tiring part of the brew, where you're not even brewing, you're just grinding coffee. Alternatively, you can stick an electric drill in there and grind your coffee to automate it, but you know, please work safely. It's almost done. There we go. All right, good to go. Just gonna give it a couple knocks. Now I've got 15 grams in there, and my coffee is just gonna go straight in. Okay, now 15 clicks on the Timemore. So that's the grind size we're gonna kind of use. That's a medium grind size. Okay, and most importantly, don't forget to throw the water out. This is something I call bypass before brewing. Please don't bypass your whole brewing process by forgetting to throw out the water for rinsing your filter paper. Okay, just going to reset my scale back to 0, and I'm almost ready to brew. Something to consider as well when you're brewing is the temperature of your water. Okay, easy range that I think most of us find to use will be between 92 to 96 degrees Celsius. And of course, at the same time, you can use any temperature to brew your coffee at. I think it takes a deeper understanding of what the effect of temperature does on your coffee. It controls the rate of your extraction. So if you're using hot water, the rate of extraction is going to be way faster. It's going to be slightly more difficult to control. At the same time, if you're using water that's too cold, it's going to be a slower rate of extraction, and what that means is that you're going to struggle to bring out the best flavors of your coffee. Okay, so for starters, 93 degrees, it's a common water temperature range that I think a lot of people use, and yeah, that's what I'm going to use today. So before I start pouring, I think it's important to understand where to begin. Okay, it's all about controlling the amount of agitation or turbulence you want to create for your coffee. And I always like to start my water stream in the center and draw a small spiral outwards. Okay, and I will be splitting up my brews into different pours or pulses just to control the amount of agitation I'm creating throughout the entire brewing process. So the first pour is going to be about 40 grams of water. So I'm just going to start the timer and I'm going to start brewing. I'm just going to go in. Nice and easy. The first 40 grams or the first amount of water that comes into contact with the coffee is something that we call the bloom, and it's basically to release the carbon dioxide into the air, to open up the flavors and sort of saturate your entire coffee bit so that I can start extracting coffees more evenly. And this process takes about 30 to 45 seconds. I'm just going to let it bloom for about 45 seconds so that the coffee bit is it's thoroughly saturated and we'll be good to go. So I'm hitting the 45-second mark. I'm gonna go in again with my next pulse. My next pulse is going to be pouring water until 120 grams of water. And this will help me to manage the amount of extraction that I'm creating. I'm managing the amount of agitation I'm creating on my coffee bed, and I'm not going to exhaust it and start to extract unpleasant flavors too soon. So I'm going to wait until 1 minute and 15 seconds, which is about now. I'm going to go in again with my third pulse. Nice and controlled, slow and intentional. Just going to pour it up to 200. Just a bit more. Okay, there we go. We're just going to leave it to do its thing. Okay, I've got one last pulse to go. Okay, and it's just going to be very gentle because I don't want to necessarily over extract this. Throughout the entire process, I'm also trying to appreciate the aroma of the coffee, which smells amazing. Quite excited for it. I'm gonna go back in and dump the rest of my water in, nice and slow. That's 240. Okay. I'm going to do a quick swirl. Now, you might have noticed that I've swirled my brew at the start, and I'm swirling my brew now. A lot of brewers feel that it's unnecessary to swirl. It's quite dangerous to swirl your brew. But I think it's important to understand why you need to swirl your brew, or why you shouldn't swirl your brew. When you swirl your brew, you're trying to create agitation, but there are other reasons why you might potentially swirl your brew. I swirled my brew after the first pour for my bloom to make sure that all the water covers all my coffee grounds to evenly saturate my coffee bed thoroughly. And I've swirled my brew a second time at the end when I finish pouring all the water I need out until 240 grams to make sure that all my coffee that has kind of gets stuck on the side of the filter paper kind of flushes down and collapses inwards to form a flat surface so that the drawdown rate of my water is at a uniform level. I'm just going to let it draw down all the way. It's almost done. Just gonna go quickly this to make sure that all the waters go through, and I'm more or less done brewing. This took about 3 minutes or so. Now, I recommend that you shouldn't use a gauge of timing as a gauge of when you should start or stop your brew. There are two schools of thought, but for me, I feel like you should use timing as a gauge of consistency. If you're brewing amazing tasting coffees at 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes for a particular coffee, for a particular brewing method and a particular brewing device, you should use that as a gauge of consistency for getting amazing tasting coffees. So if you are brewing that same coffee with the same brewing device and it's taking maybe 30 seconds more or 40 seconds more, somewhere along the line, maybe your grinder is being cranky today, or your water is not up to temperature, or somewhere along the line, you might want to revisit your brew and try again to get a better tasting coffee. Okay, now I'm going to start tasting this coffee. It smells amazing. What I like to do is to swirl my brew. Okay, when you make your coffee, it comes out in non-visible layers. Okay, all your coffee compounds need to be pretty much homogeneous throughout its entirety. So I like to swirl my brew aggressively. Of course, please be careful not to splash it on yourself. If you're scared of swirling aggressively and splashing all over yourself, what you can do is to just grab a spoon and give it a quick stir. Kopitiam uncle style. Right, I'm going to do a quick taste. Okay. Okay, that's nice, that's nice. All right, so a little bit more about this coffee. It's a carbonic maceration process, meaning that it undergoes a carbon dioxide rich environment with fermentation occurring, and this usually highlights the acidity and the fruitiness of the coffee, as well as a little bit of sweetness. I'm getting tasting notes of berries, blackberries, ripe blackberries. I'm getting grapes, and it's also very sweet, almost like candy. Right, so if you're interested in getting this coffee, it's going to be available at our academy at New Tech Park in Lorong Chuan, or you can just head online to our website to get it before it runs out. If you're keen on the equipment that we're using, do check out our online store as well, or you can swing by in person as well to check it out. With that, thank you for today, and I'll see you next time.